it is, Mr. Danny.
Well, howdy, y'all. I am Danny Bombay. I am one half of the Market Fire podcast. We are live today post election,
Hmm.
and this isn't a political show, but I just want to congratulate everybody who is on that client list that's never going to be publicly exposed for winning their seats. I hope your chosen candidate lost. I hate all of you. So, this first story is Mark Zuckerstad is laying off 11,000.
That's an inside joke, folks. I giggle because Danny has the inability to call Mark Zuckerberg Mark Zuckerberg. He
I don't have the
consistently
inability.
like
I
it's
don't.
like it's Roland Gardner from the old
Yeah,
movie Roland Burger. Roland Gardner, get out there, whatever. Right?
yeah. I don't. I don't lack the ability to say Mark Zuckerberg. I just decline to do it. You have to earn your name. He didn't earn it.
So the story in this case is Mark Zuckerberg is now currently laying off 11,000 employees, about 13%
Hmm.
of Meta staff, right? Facebook staff, Meta staff.
Yeah.
Now, Danny finds this funny. Look, I brought this to Danny because I find it absolutely, whether it's hilarious or I don't know why, but for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month now, we've been talking about Elon Musk, and Elon Musk
Right.
has now hired or fired about 50% of Twitter, right? About 3,700 employees, give or take, right?
Right.
And Meta, on the other hand, is currently laying off 11,000, almost 300% of what Elon
Right.
Musk is. And I had to search for this story because I'd read
Right.
about it somewhere else. I don't understand why Meta laying off 13%. Now it's only 13% versus 50. I get that that's a different number, but that's still almost 300
That's
the amount of people. 300% the amount of people.
yeah. That's almost irrelevant to me. I was telling you this in our pre-show conversation. I was like, I've seen these TikToks. I don't actually have TikTok, but you see them on Reels and other
Mhm.
places on YouTube Shorts, and you see these, these. It's always girls, just happens to be.
It's not,
I'm
but
just
go ahead.
saying, it's always women, and it's always this voiced over. It's the do 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 do, and there is like, follow me to my full day of work at Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and they proceed to go like 90% of their day is like eating out of the cafeteria or their cafe and like taking a break, going outside, whatever, taking a walk for your mental
Uh-huh.
health. And then 9% of it is I attended a meeting, and then 1% of it is I sent an email. And then you go, this individual, man, woman, or otherwise, is getting 300 to $500,000 annually in total compensation. And then they're like, I can't believe I got fired after I spent like you spent 4 years not doing a real job. And when you said something to me personally, like reality bites hard.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? And when it's and you're also saying like this tends to be true that states, counties, and cities
Mhm.
give tax breaks and other financial incentives to corporations, to mega corporations that are operating and doing business and hiring people because they're saying, okay, if the county, city, whatever
Right.
invests, it's one of those things where you go, well, you stole the money first, so how are you? But
Okay,
it's
taxes
neither
aren't
here nor there,
theft. That's a whole Danny thing.
right? Yeah, but that's a Danny thing. So I mean, I have to say that, otherwise, what are we doing here?
Right, sure.
Um, so when I somebody who is a strict free market person, and when somebody who is not conflates that behavior of government investment, and they're like, see, this capitalism doesn't work. And I go, that isn't capitalism. That is the opposite of capitalism, where the government is running around handing out incentives. So of course, if you're in San Francisco, it's harder to compete with huge companies like Facebook and Twitter because they're getting incentives you aren't. Um, and when a company can, for instance, get a bunch of money like a PPP loan, and they get a bunch of money and then it's forgiven, it's easy to hire people who don't actually do anything, who don't offer anything to increase the bottom line. It's just nice to have a full salaried person around to pick up a handful of tasks because you got the money for free. You don't have to worry about this thing called being profitable.
Okay,
So
I do not hold the cynicism in that statement that Danny
I,
does.
I'm
I'm
not
not
cynical.
necessarily
I'm not
saying it's
cynical.
not true. All right, what you're saying is partially true, and I understand the way you think, and people that there's a lot of people that agree with you. However,
Right.
getting a company to move to an area so that that area can grow and people are going to move there for those jobs and that kind of stuff is real. So it has providing that opportunity to your community is a good thing. Now, what happens
Right. And the
though,
way you provide that, this is a political statement, but not a political show.
sure,
The way you provide that is by a low level floor, an even playing field, which
that's
is
just not true. That's not true. It's just
right, right,
go
where there
ahead.
are no restrictions, no regulations, and no taxes, because that becomes the attractive thing. And then you build real organic businesses, not this fake nonsense where it's like, oh, Samsung's going to build us a battery factory. So the county's going to drop $100 million. But if you and I say we're starting a battery factory, it's like, well, the EPA is never going to let us open.
Right. Well, and you don't get the even half of that $100 million or whatever it would be.
Not even
Look, so all of that I agree with. However, it's
right,
not the way the world works. I would agree with you if it was a perfect world, but it's not. This is the world we live in. But what that does lead to, or can lead to, like we all know when we're talking about government funding or discounts and stuff like that, is those aren't easily flexible. Meaning that if the
right,
market turns 2 years after that, right? the
right,
the company is still bound by these, county and state and all these things they signed off for these fundings and stuff like that. Now there's
right.
loopholes and all this stuff, and this is not the only
Of course.
reason that Meta is laying off 11,000 people. Look, businesses ebb and flow as always, and for different reasons. If you are hiring and growing, it looks great to investors. It looks when you're
Right,
trying to get funding or trying to raise money, you want to show growth. One of the easiest ways to do that is by hiring employees, right? To
right,
show growth. The problem is your shareholders on the other side of it completely opposite, right? This will gain ultimately Meta more money because
right.
that all hi, firing people goes straight to the bottom line, folks. It's
Of
just
course.
that's business. If I'm $100,000 from making my budget for the quarter, I fired two $50,000 a year jobs, and it automatically goes to my bottom line. That's the way this stuff works. So Meta has wasted, and I say wasted, they've invested billions of dollars in this metaverse, right? The Web
Right.
3.0 metaverse, virtual reality, and right now that is a deep dark pit of death.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, but I understand Mark's position here, and that is if we're not Web3, we're not positioned for Web3, eh, our operations kind of doomed. And in many ways, like Facebook is responsible for like the concept of going to live in the internet, which isn't the entirety of what Web3 is. We don't even know what
Sure,
Web3 is yet,
correct. We don't
right?
know
That's
the
the thing.
entire platform of what that will
We
be.
we don't know what Web3 is going to be yet. It's still a fetus. We don't know if it's a boy or
Mm-hmm.
girl. Those are the only choices. So we're going to find out, but it's still gestating. We're still in that
Correct.
gestational, like we're finding out what this thing's going to be. And
I think it's
there
more
is
going to
this,
be more augmented reality than virtual reality, where Meta's idea, Mark Zuckerberg's idea, is virtual reality, not augmented
yeah,
reality. So,
but like they created this opportunity. They carved out a market in social
mm-hmm.
media, and he's trying to do this thing that I would say is very similar to the famed Japanese investor Masayoshi Son, um, where he just says, "I have billions of dollars,
Right.
so I'm going to outspend my competitors," and that has been an effective strategy for him, for Masayoshi Son, several times. However, it's also how you lose billions and billions and billions of dollars because you outspend and then you find out, hey, like you can spend $1 billion trying to build something, but if there's no customer for it, it doesn't matter.
Well, but
If
it's also,
if
where's that money coming from? He spent billions of
right,
Meta's money, not his money.
yeah,
He spent
correct,
almost, I think it's between 10 and 13 billion dollars that he's thrown into this black hole of death and not gotten any sort of return, including, look, there was an article
right,
that came out a week and a half ago saying that even their internal staff wasn't using this. Like the people that are supposed to be working this weren't working in this. They were working on this. Does that make sense?
right,
So his own
totally,
staff was not using the product to work like they were supposed to be working, right? And once he found out that, because one of these is he's trying to promote this as a way for companies. When you talk about enterprise versus, what do you call it? Enterprise versus normal people,
like
right? Normal people use,
yeah,
right? Enterprise is business use. One of the things he's saying behind closed doors, and it's come out a couple of times, is he's telling enterprise, hey, if we move to this virtual office, virtual reality environment, we can
right,
automatically know when people are working. We can get every
right,
stroke on the computer, everything that their eyes are
right.
looking at, everything that they're moving to. So he's already behind closed doors told enterprise, hey, you want to know if your employees are working from home? I can tell you if your employees are working from home.
Right. And that strategy is it seems genius. Um, and what he's always been selling is tracking. That's always been the business
Correct. Data,
model.
right? Data is
Yeah,
everything.
data and tracking have always been the business model. Um, where that has applied to the pedestrian general population, he is now saying we can advance this technology to the point where it's going to benefit enterprise.
Correct. And look, it's
Now,
all of this is to say that he spent too much money. Now his investors and shareholders are both
right,
going. You've spent a lot of money in the last, well, really 2 years. What are you going to
right,
do to offset it? And he's going, well, okay, I'm going to fire 10, 13% of my staff. That's going to go straight to the bottom line. That's going to be enough to make my investors and my shareholders happy enough to offset some of
right.
these billions of dollars, and then I'm going to move forward.
Right. And this is kind of the curse of great success in many ways. And Silicon Valley learned this lesson with Apple and Steve Jobs. They when you here's the thing though, I'm not saying Mark Zuckerman is a visionary in the vein of a Steve Jobs.
Right.
I'm just saying you can't like this guy has a vision. He got you this far, and to scared money. You're somebody who says this a lot, and I learned it from you.
Mm-hmm.
Scared money never made a dollar.
Correct.
Here's the thing: if like you look at Microsoft, Microsoft's an interesting example. They burned hundreds of billions of dollars to find the correct
Mm-hmm.
device strategy. They burned like hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, but here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
it took 10 years to build this device strategy that is now like the surface line of products is like no people use these and they're paying thousands of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
2,500 bucks. You can go and it's like they're building the 2,500 bucks for a Surface Pro 9 with all the stuff in it, but people are buying it.
Everybody uses a Microsoft
So
product, whether it's at work or at home. Even if you're a Mac
right,
person at home, you're using a computer for work that is not a Mac. It's a Microsoft product in some
right,
fashion or form. Look, and this, by the way, the thing that's missing out of all these articles is, guess what? Mark Zuckerberg's not going to stop spending. In none of this
no,
does it
he's
say,
gonna keep doing
"Hey,
it.
I'm going to stop investing into this dark hole."
Right,
It's, I'm doing this to satisfy you, the leaner, meaner approach, right? That
right,
every company that's laying off people ever goes, oh, we're just
right,
getting leaner and meaner. We're going to put out the same product with
right,
less people. No, he's still going to be shoveling billions of dollars down this technology. He believes in it.
right.
He's put his name on it at this point. It would take a complete disaster for Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, by the way, to change course on this product.
Yeah, here's the so that I was rounding it out all to say exactly that. I don't view a future. I don't predict a future. I'm saying Mark is going to spend 250, 250 Bs on this.
Oh, you think so?
I think he, because I don't, here's the thing. I think that we're what, 10 or 13, how many billions are we in? 10 or 13
13,
billion, something like that?
somewhere between 10 and 13.
No. Yeah, we're 13 Bs into it. I think he has to pivot. I don't think the enterprise strategy is going to function because I think this is one scenario in which it gets a little too dystopian where workers are going, I don't, because I'll say this much about family that I have that have regular traditional
Mm-hmm.
working arrangements, but they work from home. Um, they don't like they're not interested. Like they will quit over like they have the leverage.
Right.
The workers have leverage at the moment based on the current market conditions. So if you start doing all this weird tracking stuff, I think it has a negative effect. I think it has it causes workers to figure out how to get around it, and you're wasting people's time because they're frustrated with how much you're tracking them,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not productive. You're not going to see an increase in productivity. You're just going to see an increase in animosity. So you don't want that. So
Unhappy
I think
workforce.
enterprise. Right. And I think that, the great resignation, a lot of people are going back to their jobs, but I don't think that you're going to force people back into their office. And I do think this hobbled together solution, we mentioned Microsoft. I think that like you're just having teams meetings, but if you say, you're going to go work entirely in the metaverse, I think there's still enough boomers in the economy. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be 51% of the workforce
No.
that 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 it just has to be an irritated 5% that say if you do this, and we've seen this throughout. This is in
Mm-hmm.
more government things where it's like, if you make me show my card because I got the medicine, so you're going to make me show a card,
Right.
screw you. So I'm just saying, like, I think
You're
listen,
right.
this might work. This may work in a country like Japan or China, right? And that may be enough of a market, or even Europe, parts of like, Western and Eastern
Where
Europe,
they
or
don't have
Western
the
Europe,
employee, not
freedom, and
independence,
they don't.
freedom, the employee freedoms that, hey, this would be
No,
normal.
it's
Here's a new product for you to use, right? And
yeah,
here's how you're going to
just
use it, and there's no questions.
right. Yeah, and I would say that part of it is simply in the West there is more of a we're cowboys out here. We're a little bit like
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I appreciate that. 97% of the reason I moved to Texas over other states, I would have maybe preferred to live in Las Vegas, or I mean Florida was out from the off rip because I don't swim like that.
Well, I sent you
But
an
the reason,
article, what, a week ago, a week and a half ago, of a study that's shown that all of these companies that have forced their workers back to the workplace, and
yeah,
their productivity has gone to the crapper. Like it's just,
yeah,
it's hit, gone lowered. Which I was hoping what was going to come out of the pandemic and the stuff like that afterwards was going to be a shift in how companies, instead of paying for time, paid for productivity, right? Like
and
that's the way
yeah.
it
So
should
like
be.
there was Sean or Shan, it's Shan from My First Million, the podcast. He was tweeting, and I Mark and Fire replied to him. He was tweeting like, my company culture in our Slack kind of sucks. Like, what do you do to spice it up? And my response to that was, I long for a world. I'm not a workers' rights guy by any sense stretch of the
Right. You're not.
imagination.
You're
I'm
not.
a I'm not. But I'm a
Right.
libertarian, and I believe that if you're a worker and you don't like the conditions you're working in, you give them the middle finger and you go find better conditions.
Correct.
And in this life, there's this things called there's no solution, there's no perfection, there's just trade-offs, and you start quickly realizing, all right, I mean, I can make 175 grand over here, but they're going to make me come to the office. Do I take lower compensation? Do I take 100 grand because they let me work from home and
Mm-hmm.
I got to kick my feet up and it's more peaceful.
And if
And
enough
those
people
are the
make that
trade-offs that
decision, the market turns. Right. Like.
right. And so, but he was saying like, how do I spice this up in his clip? And I responded to a tweet saying, um, you don't. Like I long for a world where a or corporation goes, here's our corporate culture. I hate if there's one thing I despise, it's engagement culture of like we need to increase our engagement. I don't give a rip about your company at all.
Right.
You have no loyalty to me. I have no loyalty to you.
Sure.
It's we're not married, okay? We're friends with benefits. That's it, right? The minute this the the minute this thing stops working,
That is a
it's over.
Dannyism. That is not a big man or market fire
Yeah,
podcast
but
ism. That is a
fine.
Dannyism.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we aren't in a marriage. We're in a friends with benefits
Mm-hmm.
situationship.
Situation, sure.
And so I long for the corporate culture. If I was a guy who wanted to build some big, massive corporation, this would be my corporate culture. I'm not that guy. I don't want to build that. I just want to make a ton of money and be an investor and live my life in peace. I don't want to answer to people. I don't want to deal with other people's problems. It's not that I don't want to deal with other people's problems. I think your problems are stupid and you cry too much about things. Everything hurts all the time. Life is garbage.
Look,
Learn to
work can be fun.
surf it, baby.
Work can be fun.
Right.
Work families
But the
can
thing that
happen.
I'm
I,
right,
however, I, however, here's my problem with any of the we're a family around here or a work culture problem. My problem is that it's not a reciprocal response from the company. The fact is the
right,
company will lay you off anytime it's convenient. That's what
right,
both of these stories, Elon Musk, Twitter,
right.
with Twitter,
So
Meta, with Mark Zuckerberg, it is they have zero loyalty to you when it's
right
convenient for them. You should have the same amount of loyalty to your
to
company
them.
and the people around
So I think if a company went out there, and my view is it's going to be one of these like alternative platforms like a Rumble or something, they're going to embrace the mantra of, hey, you have a life, you have a family, you have friends, you have hobbies. Come here, perform, execute, get the frick out.
you. Right.
We
No,
don't
I,
want you
I
here.
wish that
Hey,
was the majority of workers.
right. And then, hey, productivity. Here's you hit these daily goals.
Mm-hmm.
This is how much productivity we need you to do. That's really easy to track. And it's here's the thing. You start saying we're not going to track you. We're going to track your productivity. Don't care. All of a sudden, I don't care how much. What just okay? Because it makes me work so much more efficient and
Mm-hmm.
faster. Right?
Because you want
If I'm like
done.
I
You want done with that
right, I
today.
just
And guess what?
right,
Most big companies, especially large companies and medium to large companies, already know
right,
this. There is a
right,
form that an egghead put together for you, right? That the bean counters put together for you. It goes to every CEO, it goes to everybody on the board, it even goes to stockholders in some cases that says we have X number of employees, that leads to X number of productivity, that leads to X number of dollars. Every
right,
company has it. They know when they hire a new employee what that should mean in profit and viability. So we
right,
already have the back end data to go, hey, here's what I need for you for $100,000 paycheck I'm going to give you this year. Here's what I need
right,
today and tomorrow and the office. And somehow, some way, I don't know the history behind it. We traded hours for dollars instead of productivity for dollars, and I think it's
right.
horrible and we need to fix it. And you wouldn't see mass layoffs like this because you would be able to make the argument that by firing that person also means this lack of productivity.
Right. And here's the thing, there are different people, so there's different corporate cultures, and
Mm-hmm.
different things appeal to different people. There are people who like going to the office, and it's like, I'm coming here to, like, this is my jam.
Mm-hmm. And give
God
them a place
bless
to
you.
go. And give them a place to go.
God bless you. But me personally, I can get into the office, and like when I had a traditional 9 to 5 gig, I could do as much as they needed me to do in 4 hours, but I had to sit there for 8. And there were
Danny was a
some
quiet quitter.
times,
That's all I'm saying.
well, I'm not a quiet quitter.
So you
I
you
was
belly ached about it a lot,
no, not really. I was just like, bye.
right?
Yeah, but I'm just so my view is that if you want, and here's the real thing,
Mm-hmm.
if Zuckerman's figured out how to go to those because he already has a huge list of enterprise customers, and
Sure.
he said, here's the thing: we're going to create Meta for work. Google didn't start out by creating enterprise products,
Right.
but now they have Google Cloud, which is an enterprise
Mm-hmm.
business, and they're Indian. I mean, their CEO is my uncle, Indian guy, Thomas Kurian. Um, Kurian, before one of my cousins starts commenting like you pronounce it like a white person, but you know, um, hey, like Meta for work, Meta for business, Meta
Mm-hmm.
enterprise could easily um, build a product where they completely revolutionize how work tracking is done because they already have all the sensors, they have everything, they already have the portfolio of people, product, and technology to build that. So instead
Right.
of building, hey, we're going to force your workers to plug their brain into the machine, and then we're going to track everything that they do. And every time they have a dirty thought or they laugh at an inappropriate joke, where like then you can fire them for cause. It's we're going to create this, and they get to be the hero again
Right.
instead of being
No, I
the
get it.
villain of the story.
I get it. I get
Why are
it.
you laughing? What are you laughing at?
Because the way you think, Danny is one of those people that treats computers nice because he wants to be prepared for when the technology, artificial intelligence takes over the world. He wants them to know that Dr. Danny Bombay was on their side from the get. So
Yeah, no,
so
that is true.
so I I get it. It's yeah. It's not everybody is out to get everybody.